You know, with the new consoles coming out this year, I think it's more than about time that we sat down and talked about whose controller failed. So that does bring up the question, which out of all of them I don't like? Well, we can do that by, let's look at the highlights and the dislikes and see who doesn't win that many. First and foremost, let's look at comfort. The Xbox instantly wins out of comfort. Myself, I grip my controller very tight for some odd reason. I've even broken past PS2 controllers. That's why most of the time when I buy controllers, they have to be name brand or at least certified to be used by the official company themselves, like PDP and Afterglow are actually certified by Xbox. Some of these like much cheaper ones like Mad Catz, oh man, I broke a lot of those. I went through like 4 controllers in my PS2 days before actually settling on a PS2 controller by Sony. And let's just put it like this, the same PS2 controller I have now was the last one I ever bought for a PlayStation 2. After that, definitely has to go to the Switch Pro controller. Well, because it's modeled after the Xbox One controller, so there's a lot of similarities in between the two. The only really big difference is the actual shoulder buttons. They're slightly different, but I can actually prefer them over the Xbox One controller. Then there is the Joy-Cons, where they get the job done because of the actual nature of the console itself, but there's a reason why they made a Pro controller. So if you want to stay home and pretty much make sure the Switch never leaves the dock, that's what you go after. So there's, again, some pros and cons to choosing the Switch controller, but then again, there are options there for you. And last but not least, there is the PlayStation 4 controller, which I don't know why, but it makes me feel like I'm going to break it any second. I really don't know. I don't know, maybe it's because of the way it feels, the construction, how thin the plastic feels like. I'm not really sure. That's why the Joy-Con and the PlayStation 4 controller are kind of low on the list. It feels like I'm going to break these things. And with that being said, let's move on to the battery life of these things. The Joy-Cons instantly win. These things take forever to kill off, no matter what you are doing. It doesn't really help the fact that when you're playing in handheld mode, they don't even turn on, in fact. They actually just draw power from the main battery. You can even help lengthen the battery of the Switch by disconnecting the Joy-Cons and having them use their own individual battery life as well. And the Xbox controller. My god. I went through a 3-day PlayStation, around 8+ hours this whole weekend, and only towards the last few hours did my Xbox controller finally notify me saying, hey, I am about to die. And I went into this with a full charge on it. And with all that being said, we are going around about and saying that the PlayStation controller's battery sucks. And I mean, it really, really sucks compared to the rest of them. I might be able to go through an 8 to 9 hour PlayStation without my PS4 controller screaming at me before the 6 hour mark saying, hey, I'm about to die, I'm about to die, I'm about to die, and then it dies on me. Why, out of all these controllers, this is supposed to be the most advanced controller, and it dies the quickest? I'm not sure. But the thing that really irritates me the most is that we cannot change the battery. The PlayStation 4 controller uses an internal lithium-ion battery. I have taken numerous PS4 controllers apart to see this battery just sitting there. And yes, these types of batteries can actually swell and their battery length actually shorten. There is nothing good to be said about this battery. Now, I do have to tell you guys that all I can really talk about is about my experiences and my friend experiences. The Xbox controllers die last. The Switch controllers die last, followed by the Xbox controllers, and the PS4 controllers take the least amount of time to die, which really can infuriate you, and like this past weekend, can really screw you over after only 2 notifications at hand. And that really does irritate me that out of all these controllers, this is the one that has the least amount of battery life. As much flack as the Xbox controller gets for having an interchangeable battery or able to use AA's, but that's the thing. The second my battery dies, I'm in the middle of a raid and I don't have a controller cable ready, I can just pull the battery out, slap a new pair of batteries in, and keep on going. And that as well, the batteries that you can use, normal AA batteries, even last just as long. There's pretty much no downside for having an interchangeable rechargeable battery like that. Either from having multiple sets of rechargeable batteries or normal AA's on the ready, having a built-in rechargeable battery that doesn't last that long sucks. It super duper sucks, and I hate it. And speaking of that, let's just keep on ragging on the PlayStation controller, because this is what I'm really angry about. I just want to get this off my chest. This is why I hate the PlayStation 4 controller, and I think that the PlayStation 4 controller has to be the worst controller out of the current generation. I just talked about the battery, now let's talk about the triggers. Why do these triggers do not have some kind of guard on them like the Xbox controller? And anyone can tell you a story about them watching something on the PlayStation, either Blu-ray, Hulu, Netflix, whatever, and they set the controller down on a soft surface, those triggers get hit and it instantly starts fast forward or rewriting for whatever you're watching. Now, you have more control over this if you put it on a hard surface like a table, but that's it. Why do these controllers have to be the way they are? Why can't they just give them a guard and stick them further out like the Xbox controller guards? It really makes me want to question what the designers were thinking behind these triggers. Maybe they can pull them back maybe a bit further, a little bit more design comfort? I'm not sure. But for me, the triggers on the PlayStation 4 controller are just bad. They are just super bad. From the feel, the context, as well as the actual texture on them. I do not like texture on any of my controllers whatsoever. Why? Because over time, texture erodes away. So if you're a heavy enough player, you'll see nothing but smooth groove marks where your fingers were. And the PlayStation 4 controller showed the most signs of wear and tear out of any of the controllers. And the worst part is, they showed it the soonest. Someone showed me a heavily used PlayStation 4 controller from 6 months, and it looks like it was used for years. Which leads me to my next point, the rubber on the thumbsticks. The rubber on the thumbsticks is very thinly laid out. If you're a heavy user, you will run through this rubber like it was basically non-existent. Now, the first time I actually saw the rubber rub off of my controllers was on my 360. But then again, my 360, that was a severely, heavily used console of mine. But why should the rubber rub off within a few months? Why am I buying either new analog covers or new thumbstick covers within a few months of me buying the actual controller? I can tell you why. Because all that money, all that spare money, all the little extra couple of cents that would cost them to get the thicker rubber went to the light and the touchpad and the speaker. The three most useless and poor choice about the controller overall. The light and the motion sensor now has a purpose. Mind you, now, when it's part of the VR. But when the PlayStation 4 controller first came out, yeah, you had a few games that used the touchpad, the motion control, and the speaker all at once. Now, mind you, the little spray painting game gimmick in Infamous Second Son, that's actually kind of cool. But after that, how many games in the past 2 years actually use the touch and the touchpad? Actually use the motion sensor and the speaker? Minus Death Stranding. I know Death Stranding likes to use the motion control and the speaker when the baby is stressed out and you need to calm it down. Off the top of my head, not that many. If you turn the speaker off, whatever was going to play through the speaker plays through your regular speakers, through whatever you have your sound coming out through, headsets, stereo, TV, whatever. It's just really blatant on what they were trying to do. They were trying to cash in on the Wii success and pretty much anything they design. A lot of PlayStation features, not just from PS4, came from them trying to copy Nintendo what was successful the previous generation. And the speaker and the motion sensitivity was very big factors of this. And let me talk about that light bar a little bit more, because I just recently bought a brand new TV, and yes, I play a lot of Destiny, and there's a lot of dark sequences in Destiny that requires me to at least turn off my big light. And when you know it, boom, there it is, the infamous blue triangle on the TV. And once I noticed it, it did not go away. It was a thing that once I saw, I couldn't unsee it. And I want to know how to turn this thing off. Not to dim it, to turn it off. Now, I do have to say, at least as of this recording, I have yet to find a feature or someone has told me you can actually turn it off. But that's the case. We are now on the verge of the PS5, and there's no way to turn this light bar off. Why? Why are we still implementing this feature when it isn't required for most PlayStation 4 gamers? I can understand VR, I can understand certain motion games, but not every single person uses it. Out of 150 million plus PS4 users out there, only about 4 to 5, maybe 10 million use a VR. So why can't we turn this light bar off? Why can't we turn the motion controls off? Why is there a touchpad in the middle of this controller that's a glorified... You know what? Here, I'm going to fix this. Watch this. There. No more options button, just call it what it is. It's a glorified start button. And they're bringing it over to the PlayStation 5 as well, their DualSense controller? Why? Why is this touchpad following us? We don't need it. It's useless. It's just a glorified, huge, in-your-face, this is the start button, you idiot. As well as the overall build quality of the PlayStation 4 feels like I have to play with my fingertips. I don't have super small hands, or I don't have big mitts. I have hands that can grip the controller comfortably, but yet why does it feel like I'm constantly gonna break it? In between the thin rubber on the analog sticks, the inexcusable no guard for the triggers, the useless as hell touchpad, the light bar, the speaker in the phone, the inconsiderate short battery life. Dear Lord, this PlayStation 4 also was brand new. How new? It was part of the holiday 2019 bundle pack that came with The Last of Us, God of War, and Horizon Zero Dawn. But I logged in more than enough hours and more than enough playtime to really put my thoughts together. I already knew about some of the features, but man, that battery life I did not know was this short. And on top of that, I do remember as I was bringing these controllers in when I was working with GameStop, that charging port it has is easy to break as well. I can easily redesign this controller to greatly expand the battery life, improve their overall design, and a lot of factors would go away. If you got rid of the touch bar, boom, you get rid of the touchpad. Look at that. Not only do you have more room on the controller, but you also get more money to the analog sticks to have them a little bit bigger and have thicker rubber on them. You had thicker rubber on the PS4, on the PS3, PS2, and PS1 controllers. Why on the PS4 is your rubber rubbing off so quickly? Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut this off here short. If it's not apparent, I believe out of all the current controllers between all three consoles, we're not going to include PC because you can use pretty much anything on that thing. The out-of-the-box controller, the PS4 controller, sucks. Out of all three of them, I believe it has to be the weakest design controller out of all of them. Again, this is my own personal opinion from my experiences and from my friends' experiences as well. Now, what do you guys think? What controller do you think is actually the weakest out of the whole bunch? I can see people's arguments why the Joy-Cons can suck, but then again, they are meant to be more compact and smaller to fit with the Switch. Not everybody can fit a whole bag full of controllers with them everywhere they go. But anyway, let me cut this off because this is a real talk. It's supposed to be less edited and a little bit more of a raw take of everything. What do you guys think? Do you guys think the PlayStation 4 controller is the weakest, or do you think the Xbox controller is the weakest? Let me know in the comment section down below. I like to hear different opinions and get all these stories together and see what everybody likes. I like seeing other preferences, other stories, other things going on. So be sure to share. Or also, don't be afraid to follow me on Twitter. And if you guys like what's going on here, be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe. Share the video with your friends, no matter where you're at. And as always, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I'm gone. I'm Gus. I'm out here in past tense. I'll catch you guys next time.